روز بخیر خانم ها و آقایان، خیلی خوش آمدید. ممنون که بعد از ظهر یک شنبه زیبای آفتابی هوای خوب بیرون رو گذاشتید و به برنامه ما اومدید. خیلی خوش آمدید و امیدوارم که تا این لحظه روز خیلی خوبی رو سپری کرده باشید. من محبوب بلندی هستم، نایب رئیس انجمن دانشگاه صنعتی شهید در تورنتو و افتخار دارم که از طرف هیئت مدیره انجمن به همه شما خیر مقدم میگم. تشکر ویژه دارم از اساتید و بزرگوارانی که به عنوان مهمان ویژه و در این برنامه شرکت کردم، مخصوصاً خانم جینا کودی که لطف کردن تشریف آوردن و خانواده محترمشون. هوا خوبه، کانادای آروم و زیبا رو توش داریم زندگی میکنیم، اما متاسفانه هموطنان ما درگیر یک سری حوادث در وطن هستن. اتفاقاتی که در چند روز گذشته پیش اومده همتون در جریان هستید. کاری از دست ما بر نمیاد الا کمک‌های ناچیزی که از دور براشون ارسال کنیم. برای آرامش خودمون هم که شده و برای احترام به کسانی که جونشون رو در این حوادث از دست دادن، میخوام که به احترام همه اون کشته شدگان و آسیب دیدگان چند ثانیه‌ای رو روی پا بایستیم و به احترامشون سکوت کنیم. متشکرم از لطف و محبتتون. برنامه‌ای که در آن حضور دارید برنامه کاملا خودمانی هست که خانم جینا کودی لطف کردن و وقتشون رو در اختیار ما گذاشتن. ضمناً دوست دارم تشکر کنم از سازمان‌های همکاری که این برنامه رو در گروهشون تبلیغ کردن و اعضای خودشون هم در همین برنامه حضور دارن. بدون هیچ اتلاف وقت دوست دارم که دعوت کنم از آقای تهرانی، همکارمون در بورد سوتا، که برنامه سوال جواب با خانم جینا رو آغاز بکنه. متشکرم.
My name is Gina Cody. I came to Canada in 1979 during the revolution in Iran. My brother had organized a meeting with me and a professor at Concordia. He looked at my marks and he said, "Why would you go anywhere else? Why don't you come to Concordia and we give you scholarship?" Since I was a child, my mother, who married young, she always said, "I really want you and your sister to continue your education and be independent." I did my PhD and went as much as I could to carry out the mission that was given to me by my mother. Within a year, I was offered a job at a company. Later on, I became a partner and then became the sole owner. 3 years was awarded one of the best managed companies.
Gina came to Concordia as a young woman. She was the first woman in her program to finish a PhD in building engineering. Gina's had a long association with the university even after she graduated. She served on various advisory committees for the university, and for the last 4 years or so, she's been a member of our board of governors. Gina mentioned to me that she might be interested in making a gift. I didn't really understand initially that it would be the transformative gift that it has become. The donation will create scholarships and bursaries for young people who are going to come here and study, who might not have otherwise had the opportunity to do so.
She came by and she visited each of the student societies, shook all of our hands and asked what we were doing. So I told her what we were doing, and she was very impressed. By having a woman as the face of the school, I feel comforted. As a woman in a STEM field. We don't see as much discrimination as perhaps historically we have, but there's a lot of struggle that's internalized within questions like, do I belong here? Am I a real engineer? But having a woman as the face of your school is a reminder every day that yes, you do belong here, and you can do great things.
I'm quite honored to be given the chance of signing the League of Montreal. It's a confirmation of acceptance of a person that has made contribution. I was provided with an opportunity that changed my life, giving back to the society that made you who you are. It's not an option, it's an obligation. By me giving all these scholarships to all these students, I'm hoping that most of them will do the same thing I did, and the circle continues of people who succeed and get back. That's how Canada was made. That's how we will have an inclusive society.
روز همگی بخیر. خیلی خوشحالم که تشریف آوردید. How many of you cannot understand English? Thanks God. So now we can convert more in English than Farsi. ولی من سعی میکنم برای اینکه there are a number of people who just do not understand Farsi who are in the audience. So راحت تره که برای من I speak in English. So we can go back and forth.
با سلام بعد از روزتون بخیر. مرتضی تهرانی هستم، جزو هیئت سوتا در تورنتو. امروز قرار شده که من یه مقدار اطلاعات در خانم جینا کودی خدمتتون بدم و بعد چند تا سوال خواهیم داشت. ازشون خیلی متشکریم که وقتشون در اختیار ما گذاشتن. از شما متشکریم که بعد از ظهر یک شنبه‌تون رو صرف کردید اومدید که بیشتر با خانم کودی آشنا بشید. بایوگرافی خانم کودی رو من میخونم که مقدار بیشتر آشنا بشید. ایشون بعداً خودشون براتون توضیحات بیشتر رو خواهد داد. خانم جینا پروانه کودی، مهندس و بیزنس وومن ایرانی کانادایی با بیش از 30 سال کار حرفه‌ای در بخش خصوصی هستند. ایشون در زمینه ارائه خدمات مهندسی حرفه‌ای به مجموعی از بزرگترین شرکت‌های سرمایه‌گذار در ریال استیت، مؤسسه‌های مالی، سازندگان توسعه دهنده‌های ریال استیت فعالیت داشتند. خانم کودی رئیس اجرایی و سهامدار اصلی گروه CCI بودند که این شرکت مشاور مهندسی با دفتر اصلی در تورنتو کانادا بودن که تا سال 2016 زمانی که ایشون تمامی سهامشون رو فروختن و بازنشسته شدن تصدی ریاست این شرکت رو داشت. خانم کودی لیسانس مهندسیشون رو از دانشگاه فنی آریامه شریف کنونی دریافت کردن و در سال 1979 به کانادا نقل مکان کردن. در دانشگاه کورکوردیا تحصیلشون در رشته فوق لیسانس مهندسی سازه شروع کردن. در 1981 به اتمام رسوندن و در سال 1989 خانم کودی اولین خانمی بودند که در تاریخ دانشگاه کنکوردیا مدرک دکترای مهندسی سازه رو دریافت کرد. به عنوان یک عضو فعال جامعه کنکوردیایشون عضو هیئت سیاستگذاری دانشگاه و عضو کمیته سیاستگذاری و همچنین رئیس کمیته برنامه‌ریزی ریال استیت دانشگاه هستند ایشون همچنین رئیس هیئت مشاور صنعت می باشند که هدفشون کمک به تعیین راستای برنامه‌ریزی برای رشته مهندسی و علوم کامپیوتر دانشگاه. خانم کودی همکنون در تورنتو به همراه همسرشون آقای تامس کودی که ایشون هم دانش آموخته دانشگاه کنکوردیا هستند زندگی میکنن. این زوج صاحب 2 دخترن، رویا کودی دانشجوی دکترای دانشگاه واترلو و تینا کودی دانشجوی رشته حقوق دانشگاه ببخشید رویا کودی دانشجوی دکترای دانشگاه واترلو هست. بعد از هدیه سخاوتمندانه ایشون به کمپین کنکوردیا که نکست جن نام داره، دانشگاه مهندسی و علوم کامپیوتر دانشگاه کنکوردیا به دانشکده مهندسی و علوم کامپیوتر جینا کودی تغییر نام. دانشکده مهندسی و علوم کامپیوتر جینا کودی اولین دانشکده مهندسی در کانادا است که به نام یک خانم نامگذاری شد و در نوع خودش در جهان منحصر به فرد است. از ایشون متشکریم که نام ایرانی رو در کانادا به خوبی همه جا یاد خواهند کرد و فکر کنم کمکشون یه مقدار به دانشجویی که مهندسی و علوم کامپیوتر خواهند اون کمک فراوانی خواهند. سوالات رو میخوام شروع کنم. اولین سوال اینه که یه مقدار در مورد خودتون و داستان زندگیتون بگید از زمان دانشجویی در ایران و نقل مکانتون به کانادا و دوران دانشجویی در کانادا، مهاجرت، کار و کارآفرینی تا زمان بازداشت.
He's asking my whole life. I was born in a middle-class family in Iran. پدر من, he was فرهنگی. He had a all-boys high school. مادر من, she got married young. She was 16 years old when she married. She had my oldest brother when she was 18. So she never finished high school, but she always felt that for a woman to succeed in life and be independent is through education. So since I was a little kid, always to me and my sister, my mom would say, you guys better study or you will not have a good life. So that stayed with me. Both my sister became a dentist. I came to Canada in 79. I finished my bachelor در رشته سازه در دانشگاه شریف که اون موقع صنعتی آرامه بود. I just was lucky. I just finished before the university got closed. And then I came to Canada during hostage crisis. And those of you who were here at that time, you may remember Iranians were not very liked. They were not liked, period. And it was a difficult time for any Iranian in North America. The whole, if you turned on the TV, it was today's 30th day, today's 40th day. Every day the news would start by the number of days that the hostages, the American embassy hostages were in Iran. So Iranians were always in the news at the time. I arrived during Labor Day weekend. I had $2,000 in traveler's check. That's all I had. I was supposed to go to McGill. I didn't even have the tuition to pay to the university. So my brother had arranged for a meeting between me and a professor at the university because he had just finished his bachelor's at Concordia. So he said, why don't you come and meet this professor? He's interested to see you. So that's 40 years ago. I went to meet this professor named Cedric Marsh. I had an interview with him for an hour. He looked at my marks. He looked at my acceptance from Yale. And then he said, why don't you come to Concordia? We'll give you a scholarship. He took my acceptance and took my hand, and we walked into the registrar's office at the university, and right there they issued me an acceptance to master program at Center for Building Studies at Concordia. Then he gave me a letter. He said, go to Immigration Canada and get your work permit. So this is 2 days after I had arrived in Canada. So I came out of the meeting. I told my brother, take me to the immigration office so I can get my work permit. He had been here for 8 years. He didn't even have a work permit. Most Iranians didn't have work permit. So we went in, and that afternoon, I started working in the laboratory at the university for my professor. I look back and I say, I was a 22-year-old girl from Iran. The first time that I took a flight was when I came to Canada. I had no money. I'm not sure what I was thinking. How did I thought I could survive? But my life got changed within a meeting. At that time, I didn't appreciate how important that incident and that meeting was. But later on, I realized what a transformation that meeting was and how it changed my life. Because I studied my master's and then I went to do my PhD in a very, very comfortable life. And because the university gave me that chance, I felt I had to work hard. I had to prove to this professor that I do deserve the trust he gave me. I never took it for granted. So I was working late at night. I was there till 1 o'clock in the morning. I would be the first person to go to school every day because to me, this was something that I had to earn it. I had to earn that whole trust that was given to me that I am going to be a good student. I'm going to prove to the university that as a woman, as an engineer from Iran, you know, we are different. We are really good, work hard, and get your respect. So that was my university years, and then I came to Toronto. Before finishing my PhD, I moved to Toronto to work at the Ministry of Housing, and within the first year, I had a committee that all the consultants were on that committee, and I was very lucky because everybody wanted to me to join them. So I chose one of the consulting firms, and I joined that consulting firm. And again, being a woman, and it was a firm in construction. At that time, there was really no women in construction. Even during my university time, Canada actually was behind from Iran. When I went to Saze, I was Dorei Hashtam, we were 60 students, we were 6 women. So we had 10% in our class. When I came to Canada, the percentage was around 5 to 6% women in the engineering programs, and it varied. Some programs had none, and some programs had 10%, so it's sort of the balance was around 5 to 6. So when I went to the construction sites, I was the only woman. I remember I attended a conference in Toronto in the early 80s. There were 700 registrants. I was the only woman in the room. And when the MC started the meeting, he said, lady and gentleman. So everybody started to know me because I was the only woman. Every meeting I would go, I was the only woman. The first job I started was inspecting cranes, construction cranes. These are tower cranes that go 100 feet above ground, and I had no fear. I would go up, I would do my inspection, come back. I was the only woman in that industry. It had positive and negative. The positive thing was everybody remembered me. The negative was they were always looking at me to make a mistake or say something wrong. So I had to work overtime. I had to work hard. I had to memorize the agendas. I had to memorize the reports. So when I go to a meeting, I cannot be taken for their biases. So they were wrong. I am a woman, and I can contribute, and I can be a good engineer. So by being the only woman, I think it really helped me because they all remembered me. They all knew who I was, and that helped me to progress. And I joined the company. I bought everybody else's shares gradually. Then I became the sole owner of the company, and then I sold and retired in 2016. So that's in a nutshell my life history. Valid. Otherwise, I can go on for.
Sure. We have a couple of questions. چند تا سوال داریم که بعد تموم کنیم. ممنون که خلاصه کردید. من فقط یه نکته رو بگم. این روز دیگه 2 روزه نمیشه ورک پرمیت گرفت، راحت نمیشه. شما موقع خوبی اومدید.
بله، it's changed.
شما به خیلی از سوالاتی که ما با این پرسید، یعنی ما با دوستان پیش بینی کردیم اشاره کردید، حالا بیشتر در مورد صحبت خواهیم کرد. سوال بعدی اینه که what did you enjoy the most in your engineering career or workplace؟ یعنی شما از چی بیشتر از هر چیز دیگه لذت بردید تو حرفه مهندسی و محل کار؟
I love engineering, and I'm biased. I've worked in it for 30 years. To me, engineering is a common sense. It's complete common sense. And it's very logical. They can't argue with you. 2 + 2 is 4, so you don't have to prove that you are right. You're right or you're wrong. So that makes engineering much, to me, more challenging and more exciting. What I loved about the work was every day at work, when you're doing engineering, every job is different. Every job has its own challenges. So you are constantly trying to come up with solutions to problems that didn't exist yesterday. And tomorrow's problems are totally different than the problems you have today. So that mental challenge to me makes engineering a very, very exciting profession. I do give a lot of talks to girls, young women and girls at high school to encourage them to get into engineering and STEM, because I really believe Canada, North America, needs more women in the STEM programs. We are way behind the rest of the world in Canada. And I always tell them that engineering is an exciting work. That's why they should join.
خب سوال بعدی خود متفاوته. What do you consider as your biggest achievement in life؟ چه چیزی بزرگترین چیزی که تو زندگی دست پیدا کردی چی هست؟
بزرگترین چیزی که در زندگی برای من I would say having a faculty of engineering and computer science, the first of its kind in the world, named after a woman. That I consider to be my biggest achievement, and it's really not about me. And I have said that if you go to YouTube's and all my speeches, it's not about me. It's really about a gender issue to have an engineering in computer science named after a woman, because I believe we need more women in that profession. And why? Because we are in the fourth industrial revolution. The time of workplace needing power and energy on the physical level is past. Now robots can do all the work. What is required is your brain power. I think women and men are equal in their brain power. And if the women don't get into the STEM programs, there is no more manufacturing jobs for them. There's no more, even retail is going to disappear. So if they don't get into the STEM program, they will really fall behind. There will be no future for our women if we want to have a truly inclusive and equally gendered environment and workplace. So for women, it's extremely important at the present time to get into the engineering and computer science program. And that's one of the reasons I would consider the school at Concordia to be my
Cool. سوال بعدی What is your recommendation for new immigrants and students, new grads and engineers in Canada to be successful in their career? توصیه شما برای مهاجران جدید، دانشجوها، فارغ التحصیلان جدید و مهندسین در کانادا چی هست که در حرفشون موفق باشه؟
hard work. اگه به فارسی بگم کار سخت، ولی کار سخت نیست. It's hard work and perseverance. Don't give up. You have to constantly prove, and don't have ego. And one of the biggest issues for immigrants coming to Canada, when they have had 10 or 15 or 20 years of experience back home, they had a very successful life there. They pack everything and they come to a new country because of their kids or themselves. But now they have to start from almost zero. They have to start from scratch. And that ego may not be an ego, but that experience and that success they had, sometimes they become an obstacle. I remember when I was working, I would go to the office and I was the first one. I would wash the dishes in the sink, put them away, make the coffee, and then go sit at my desk. Because I usually was the first one getting into the office and work, and I used to be the last one to leave. But I never considered washing the dishes at the office was below me. And people recognize that, they notice that. I used to go to meetings, and I was the only woman, and I would say, okay, who is gonna take the minutes? I look around the room, I would say, okay, I take the minutes. Then for the next meeting, before we leave, I would say, who is gonna prepare agenda for the next meeting? And these were like crane and hoist associations, they were all men. Nobody would put their, I would say, okay, I'll prepare the agenda for next meeting. So I will send it to everybody. The third meeting, I was chairing it. It was my meeting. I write the agenda, I do the minutes. So now it is my meeting, and they all accepted me as the chair. Because they say, oh, Gina, you're doing a good job. Keep doing it. So to be accepted and successful, you don't look at doing the menial job as menial. Look at it as a step for the next level you will get to. I always took it one step at a time. I did everything. I remember when we were moving the offices, I was vacuuming and cleaning and doing packing. It didn't matter to me. But partners recognize that. They see that. The only person who's hardworking and gives it 150% is that person. So the success will come after that. So I would suggest, if you want to succeed in any profession, don't think that anything is below you. Work hard, persevere, and do not give up. Don't get discouraged. There may be people along the way that their job is, some people feel by putting others down, they will go up. Don't let those people get to you. Because some people think by ruining somebody else's home, their home will be more shining and much nicer. But don't get fooled by that. Don't let them affect you. Trust yourself. Because you can do it. You know how great you are. And most of our immigrants that they come from Iran, from schools that you go in Iran, it's hard to get to those schools. It's hard to get your bachelor's. The engineers that come from Iran, they're extremely knowledgeable. They are head and shoulder above many other immigrants that come to this country. So remember that and be proud of what you have, but don't let people let you down. Just work hard, you will get there, I promise you. If you are persevered and you are working hard, people will recognize it. It may not happen overnight, it may take time, and be focused. Don't try to change pattern. See what your niche is, what you are good at. Self-awareness is the most important thing for a person's success. Know your weaknesses and strengths. Build on your strength and be aware of your weaknesses. That's how you can reach to the next level.
تقریبا سوال بعدیرم جواب دادید. سوال بعدی این بود که what is the recipe for success in the industry in your opinion?
There's a lot more. The recipe for success is a number of issues. The first and foremost is pursuing knowledge. As a person, you have to constantly be aware of the changes in the industry that you're working. As a manager, as a leader, you should be aware of the new technologies, especially in the day that we're living, in the fourth industrial revolution and the digital era. The technology is changing on a daily basis. And if you don't keep up with the knowledge on a daily basis, you will be falling behind. So pursuing knowledge and always being involved, whether it's through associations. I was involved in Canadian Standard Association. I chaired 2 standards. I have sat on numerous standards because I wanted to be always ahead of my peers, so I know what new standards are coming. I was involved in the Professional Engineers Ontario. I chaired professional practice committee for a decade, I was preparing guidelines for professional engineers. By being involved, you will be able to understand what is changing, what's required from you as an engineer. I was involved in Canadian Condominium Institute. I got, Order of Honor from professional engineers. I got a fellowship from Canadian Condominium Institute. I was teaching, so pursuing knowledge constantly gives the first step. The second level is be open to criticism. Criticism is the best thing that anyone can give you towards your success. Those who cannot take criticism or take it personal where somebody tells them they're doing something wrong, they never succeed because they are blinded to their weaknesses. So be open to criticism. Be self-aware. That's extremely important, again, to know what you are good at. Be authentic. As Oscar Wilde said, everyone else is taken. Be yourself. So don't try to be someone else. We all are unique. We all have different characters. And that's what makes us special. So trying to imitate someone else or being somebody else is not going to help you succeed. Being yourself, which makes you a special person, that makes you unique. And that's what people would love. So stay authentic. Be trustworthy. The most important thing. I had clients for 30 years of my life. It's very hard to get a client. It's very easy to lose them. One lie, one mistake that you don't admit that you did it will cause you to lose that years of trust that you gain. So be trustworthy. When you make a mistake, own it. Say, I made a mistake. They will trust you even more because you admitted to it. Don't try to hide it. The foremost important thing is be kind. I cannot emphasize how important kindness is in succeeding, especially if you're a leader, if you have a team working with you. Be kind at all times. Success is not just succeeding in a short time or having more money. I always say, was Steve Jobs really a happy person when he died? Was he satisfied with his life? Was he a kind person? That is what makes a person special, that kindness that puts you different than others. And also another thing that some people say, especially for women, women feel because they're vulnerable, that's a weakness. I believe vulnerability is an asset. Being vulnerable means you're a human. You have emotions, and you react to your emotions. And people around you will believe and will open up to you. They believe in you. And you create a community of people that around you are open because they know that when they have a problem, you will care for them. And your team as a group work harder, will go that extra mile when you are in need of help. So don't try to be a superhero and not to show that you had a bad day, or you just lost your best friend, or your mother passed away and you have to go to work. We are vulnerable. We are humans. So show your emotions. At work, there's nothing wrong by showing your emotions and being kind.
در ادامه همین صحبتات خواستم در مورد مسلما شما به عنوان یک بیزینس اونر و در واقع صاحب مدیر شرکت بزرگی بودید و کارآفرین بودید، تو استخدام خیلی ها دقیق بودید احتمالاً. یه چیزی که تازه واردین در کانادا و مهاجرا باش دست گریبان هستن مسئله روند استخدامی در شرکت ها هست. این سوال در اون ارتباطه: What should employers seek in an engineer when hiring? Does race, gender, background has any role to play, or it is just qualifications, soft skills / hard skills that determines who gets hired? What is more important in your opinion, talent or experience or personality?
When you go for a job, obviously it depends what type of work you're applying for. If you are in a job that you will be working with a team, and most jobs these days are teamwork, the personality will play a very, very strong role in your employment. And also when you are being interviewed for a job, that's what they see. It's your personality. They can see your mark. They know where you got your work. These days, many firms, they put you through rigorous exams. They give you coding if you're going to computer science, if you're applying for Google or those type of programs. They really put you behind the desk and give you problems. Depending on what type of job you are hiring, I used to have, for example, Chinese engineers to come. They hardly could speak English. But I will give them an engineering problem, and I will say, okay, you have 2 hours to design this foundation for me. And I will close the door and give him all the textbooks and come back 2 hours later. So that proves that they can do it. They have the knowledge. But to me, just having that knowledge is not enough. Your personality is the most important aspect of your work. And one of the biggest issues at any job is not having an ego. I always tell people, park your ego at the door. Just don't bring it with you to the meeting. Don't bring it to the workplace. So as a person, when you go for an interview, your talent is important. Your hard and soft skills are important. Obviously, your education is important. If you're coming from Iran with a degree, I strongly recommend pursue your master's. Try to get some sort of degree from this country or the country of your choosing, because that gives validation. I always said that I don't think I could have succeeded if I didn't have my PhD. So many times people will call the office, and here it is, my own consulting firm, everybody's reporting to me. My assistant will get the message, a client calls and has an engineering issue. So she would pass the call to me, and I will answer the phone. And the minute I answer the phone, the person on the other side will say, no, I asked to talk to an engineer. Can you pass me to your boss? That's what immediately, because I'm a woman, and they thought I was the secretary. But the minute I told them, look, I have a PhD in engineering, I know what I'm talking. That got their attention. So pursuing your education and going as high as you can has gives that confirmation that somebody else has given you the stamp of approval, so they don't have to judge you just because you have a bit of accent and your name is different than other people's name, that you will get the respect very quickly. So you need to pursue your education if you can, even if you have to take a 6-month program, or if you have your PhD from Iran, do a postdoc. If you have a bachelor, do a master's program. Do a business degree. Do some sort of a degree if you can. If your aim is to succeed in your profession. If you want to get into something else, you want to get to in business and stuff, that doesn't matter anymore because you're not looking for employment. But if you're looking for employment in your area that you went to school for, pursuing a second degree may be extremely useful.
سوال بعدی هست در مورد مدیریت، استراتژی مدیریت است. What's the best management strategy from your point of view?
To me, a good manager, I used to say, somebody actually, once I took a management session. The first year I worked 1 year at the Ministry of Housing, and they had a group come and teach us how to be a good manager. And I learned one sentence in that meeting, and it says, manage by walking around. That stayed with me. So when I had my office, every morning, I constantly would walk around. I would know who does what by walking around. So that was my style of management, by just walking around. And I think a good manager will know how their group is doing by just walking around, speaking with them, talking with them, and trying to understand what are their issues, and also making your staff trust you that you're not going to penalize them for questioning you. Because if they don't question, the problem will be hidden. So I always encourage them to ask me questions. Please, if you don't understand, just ask. Nobody will consider you silly or dumb because you're asking questions. But if you don't, in engineering, we can't make mistakes. It's just, we cannot. So, as a manager, you have to make sure that your staff are comfortable to ask questions. Otherwise, you are failing your staff, really. A good manager has to be a kind manager that people feel comfortable to ask. Question doesn't matter what that question is.
خب تو شرکت که گشت میزنید و صحبت میکنید با همه، این تصور به وجود نمیومد که ماکرو منیجمنت میخواید بکنید یا اینکه ببینید همه سر کار هستن نیستن چیکار دارن میکنن.
They got used to it. If I didn't, then they would say, where's Gina today? She didn't show up. They get used to it. But if you, micromanagement is totally different. When you're micromanaging, you are really doing the work for them. You're not trusting them. But walking around and saying, how are you today? Did you have a good evening last night? Because you're not asking them or looking at over their head. But by just walking around, they would ask questions. They will be there, say, by the way, the so-and-so called and they wanted this, what do you think? But if your door is closed as a manager and you're sitting behind the desk, people don't feel comfortable coming to you. You are going to them rather than them coming to you. My office, I never ever close my office door. I don't know how to close my office door. And if my office door was closed, people would thought something must be really wrong now that the door of the office to Gina's is closed. So it wasn't micromanaged. I don't like micromanagement, and frankly, you can't. When you have 150 engineers working, how can you micromanage them?
به هر حال شرکت وقتی رشد طبیعی شد داره تعداد پرسنل زیاد میشه و یه مدیر پله‌های ترقی رو میره بالاتر، به هر حال نمیتونه تو تمام زمینه‌ها مطلع باشه. شما چجوری دلیگیت میکردید؟ یعنی وظایف رو واگذار میکردید به افراد زیر دستتون و آیا این کار رو میکردید یا چطور انجام میدادید که به هر حال یه نفر نمیتونه؟
Oh, not at all. I didn't do much work. I just told people what to do. Every division had their own VP, and every VP had their own managers. And one thing as a manager, you have to know what's the niche, everybody's niche. And good managers knows what's the strength of this person and what's the strength of that person. So you try to assign work to the person who is good at that and not at the other. So that's what differentiates a good manager. If you give somebody a work that that person is not good at, you're not a good manager. You're just managing it wrong. So you have to understand the people, whether they are your directors or your VPs or your just group leaders. You have to understand what is their strength and assign the work to them. When the work is assigned, then you have to feel comfortable that they know what you're doing. Otherwise, you won't succeed.
و چجوری انگیزه ایجاد میکردید تو کارمندان که کارمند به نظر من میرسه که انگیزه نقش مهمی رو بازی میکنه و هر کسی هم با کسی دیگه متفاوته. یعنی ممکنه یکی با حقوق بالاتر انگیزش بیشتر بشه، یکی مثلا کار بزرگتری بهش بدن، یک چالش بزرگتر درش انگیزه ایجاد میکنه، یکی دیگه پست مدیریتی و عنوان و اینجور چیزا